Welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle, continuing this important series on leadership lessons. Leadership lessons. In the last couple of episodes, I've talked about the importance of being tested as leaders. Adversity comes to all of us. And so it's so important that we remain stable, that we remain committed to the cause of fitness despite what may come our way. And folks, before I forget, because I've forgotten for the last couple of episodes to mention to you, I wanted to provide you with a resource, a learning or training and development opportunity resource that I was made aware of actually last month. And so you can find this in Club Industry at clubindustry.com. So you can actually just Google Club Industry, and the title of it is Club Industry's Town Halls on the Response to the Coronavirus Crisis. And so there are a number of town hall webinars, and they're on demand now, such as how to manage cash flow, navigate government regulations, and mitigate the risk of bankruptcy during and after COVID-19, allaying member fears with good cleaning protocols after reopening, parts 1 and part 2, how club owners are adapting during crisis and preparing for their reopening, how to engage members with virtual solutions during the coronavirus shutdown, Club Industry Town Hall on how suppliers are helping health clubs through the coronavirus crisis, Club Industry's Town Hall on the effects of the coronavirus in your fitness business, parts 1 and parts 2. It's a wonderful series, and there's a number of other ones. And so they've actually got a section for responses to submitted questions from town halls. So folks, I wanted to add another thing to your to-do list, but these webinars are awesome. They provide some awesome perspective, awesome insight from various individuals and fitness leaders within the industry in terms of how they are dealing with the adversity and the challenges that this pandemic has caused. And so did not want to forget this particular episode to provide you with these resources, folks, and they're all free. They're all on demand. Take a listen, take a look. I assure you, you will not regret it. But as we wrap up here this little subset of the Testing and Adversity and Leadership series, folks, I wanted to highlight an example, actually an article, but it's just a wonderful example of how things are looking, how things are shaping up in a top fitness market. So I've shared Crane's Detroit Business article a few weeks ago. Detroit, as you've heard me mention on a number of occasions, is a competitive fitness market, but this time I want to talk a little bit about Chicago, which is actually one of the world's top fitness markets. And so it's just interesting. The challenges are the same regardless of where you are, but in the absence of fierce competition, some of them, the competitiveness of the market just cannot be underestimated, folks, and you just got to make sure that you are on top of your game moving forward, because this pandemic has really driven a wedge in many respects in terms of fitness facilities that are going to be doing everything that they can to allay member fears, like that webinar actually talked about, to those that will ultimately survive and those that won't. It's just a very, very, very different situation depending upon the competitiveness on your marketplace. If you've got one gym in a town, it's a very different situation than Chicago. But many of these same challenges are the same. It's just they manifest differently, because when you've got a boatload of competitors in a market, it just really changes the competitive dynamic a tremendous deal. And so the title of this article is in the Chicago Tribune. And so Lauren Zumbach actually published this article on May 8th. And the title of it is, Health clubs and fitness studios are prepping for a comeback, but will people feel safe getting off their Pelotons and sweating next to strangers? In the beginning of this article, there's actually a picture of X Sport Fitness. I actually toured one of those a couple of years ago when I was in Chicago for an alumni activity on campus. And so it's just real interesting because they've got a picture of the front of a location, and there's a sign, there's a hanging display that says X Sport Fitness, join now, get 1 year free. Open 24/7, 365, and it's got the phone number to this particular location. And I wanted to see, again, from a competitive strategy standpoint, that's just one of my areas of expertise is competitive strategy. So when I saw this and I see two people walking in front of it with masks, so I realized that this is a new or current promotion. And so the date on this picture states May 6th, 2020 in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. And so, very, very interesting. So look at that dynamic right there off the bat. You know, join, get a year free. So this pandemic, particularly in highly competitive markets, it's really going to be some game-changing promotions in terms of getting members, in terms of member acquisition, as well as member retention. And so if you're in a competitive market and you're not aware of what your competitors are doing, I mean, just think of gyms that all of a sudden have to compete with that. You know, you think that having a low price per month or even $25 or $35 a month is, you know, a great deal, which true, may be, but these are not typical times. These are not typical times. And so getting a year free when you join, I mean, that's just, I mean, right off the bat, just a very competitive and compelling offer to get members. So this article is very lengthy, but in the spirit of context, I'm going to read it all because it talks about, you know, several different things and just gives you some insight in terms of how things are looking in one of the world's most competitive fitness markets. So it goes on to state, for nearly 8 weeks, Lakeshore Sports and Fitness has been overhauling its 2 Chicago clubs, spending more than $200,000 on new cleaning equipment and making other changes to meet new standards for hygiene and personal space, even as member dues stop flowing. But like other fitness club operators, Lakeshore managing partner Peter Goldman still has little sense of when he'll be able to roll out the changes, even after Governor J.B. Pritzker announced a 5-phase plan to reopen the state's economy. That's a problem for gyms that have seen little, if any, revenue when forced to shut their doors to slow the spread of COVID-19. When they can reopen, it's uncertain how eager people who have spent weeks avoiding physical contact with others will be to start working out with a bunch of sweaty strangers, especially if they bought home workout equipment while cut off from their favorite studio. At Lakeshore, members will be able to reserve 10-foot by 10-foot workout pods with a piece of cardio equipment, exercise mat, and their choice of bands and weights, all of which will be sanitized between uses. But the total number of members in clubs at a time and participation in group fitness or group classes will be limited and require registration through Lakeshore's app. And the facilities will step up cleaning procedures, spraying disinfectant throughout the day, and using ultraviolet light to clean overnight. Under Pritzker's plan, announced Tuesday, health and fitness clubs can begin conducting personal training sessions and outdoor classes in the 3rd phase of recovery, when the rate of infection is stable or declining. That phase would begin no earlier than the end of the month, when the state's stay-at-home order is set to expire. To reach the following phase, which would allow gyms to open with capacity limits, will require a continued decline in the rate of infection and enough capacity in hospitals to keep up with surges and new cases. It's not clear how long that could take. On Friday, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced a plan that set different standards for rates of infection and testing capacity before easing stay-at-home rules in Chicago, which could mean a longer wait for local gyms. That's a tough pill to swallow for fitness clubs that hoped the next step would mean reopening their doors, even with strict limits for something closer to normal operations. This solution does not keep us in business or help us reopen and pay people, Goldman said. Just how tough it will be depends on the gym. At Runaway Fitness, which has offered classes that mix treadmill running and strength training at a studio in Streeterville since late 2018, being a small independent studio makes it easier to adapt and host workouts that comply with Illinois' limits, said owners Ted and Christine Theodore. But they're unlikely to break even on outdoor workouts and personal training alone. That usually requires 5 or 6 busy classes a day. Without help from their landlord on rent, we have a real problem, Ted Theodore said. That's why it's day to day. Those kind of rules could paralyze us. Personal training was never a big source of business for Runaway Fitness, and people struggling with the financial fallout from the pandemic will be even more hesitant to pay for it. There's a park nearby where the company can hold outdoor classes, but it would likely have to cut fees since participants wouldn't have access to the usual equipment and facilities. The Theodores had hoped to open sooner with limits on the number of participants in a class, which could be offset with more frequent sessions. At least then, they're getting on the treadmill and slinging weights. They can do a lot of the outdoor stuff on their own, Ted Theodore said. We have a loyal following, but they pay for the experience here, and you don't fully get that outside. Larger gyms with spacious facilities and a variety of activities, including individual workouts, are more confident they can weather the shutdown, but said that they weren't sure it was worth reopening for the earliest, most restrictive phase of the governor's plan. Lifetime Fitness, which has more than 150 clubs in the U.S. and Canada, has chosen to wait to reopen clubs in other parts of the country that have started to allow gyms to operate. In some cases, that's due to local restrictions like closed locker room and shower facilities. Lifetime also waits until employee and member surveys indicate most people in a particular location are ready to return. The first reopened Friday in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. When clubs reopen, in addition to stepped-up cleaning and capacity limits, group fitness classes will require reservations, and there will be half-hour breaks between each class so instructors can sanitize equipment. To encourage social distancing, fitness equipment has been spaced out, and in the locker rooms, every other shower and certain lockers are off limits. During personal training sessions, employees will stay 6 feet away from clients and sanitize equipment before and after each use. Basketball courts will be open, but games, at least initially, will not be permitted, and on tennis courts, only pros, not players, will retrieve balls. We want to get back in business as soon as we can in all markets, but we need to do it in the right way, Bouchard said. David Blitz, CEO of Chicago-based Studio 3, which has studios in the Park West and River North neighborhoods, said the company's high-intensity interval training, cycling, and yoga classes will be hard to conduct outside. It likely wouldn't be worth resuming operations on such a limited scale, he said. Consumers want more from us than that, he said. First Ascent, an indoor rock climbing company with 5 Chicago area gyms and 1 in Peoria, could provide something close to its usual experience that climbers can visit in groups of 2 while practicing social distancing, said co-founder Dan Bartz. Climbers usually work in pairs with one person on the wall and another holding their rope, ready to catch them if they fall. But if each member must be paired with an employee, it likely wouldn't be worth reopening until later phases of the recovery because so few people would be able to take advantage of the one-on-one sessions, he said. Mike Flanagan, CEO of Chicago-based LifeStart, which has 100 fitness centers that operate as amenities in office buildings across the country, said the company likely would offer outdoor programs like walking and running clubs in Illinois as it awaits a full reopening. But he would rather see Illinois follow the lead of other states that have allow members inside with restrictions. What we're saying is a better plan is member management, ensuring people can keep 6 feet apart and opening activities that allow that, he said. It's funny, I got minorly distracted because there's a picture right here of Precor EFX Machines from an export Ford Center at 3240 North Ashland on May 6th. And so it's funny, they've got up close pictures of a couple of rows of Precor EFX. And it's my favorite all-time machine. So it's just funny as I saw that. It just really got my attention, took my attention away from reading. But anyway, back to the article. In Texas, for instance, fitness centers will be allowed to reopen at 25% capacity May 18th, but locker rooms and showers must remain closed. Gyms in Georgia were told to limit capacity to a level that allows for social distancing and to check members' temperatures at the entrance. Group classes, pools, basketball courts, hot tubs, and saunas are also off limits. LifeStart is preparing to reopen a handful of gyms in Atlanta, Dallas, and Nashville, Tennessee, Flanagan said. Members can sign up for access in 45-minute slots, separated by 15-minute periods when clubs will close for cleaning. No group classes are planned, but members can reserve studios and take virtual classes on their own. LifeStart also purchased $4,000 electrostatic disinfectant sprayers for all 100 locations and is providing reusable antimicrobial hand grips members can use to avoid directly touching equipment. While they wait, fitness clubs and gyms say they're investing in protective equipment like masks and new cleaning equipment and planning to allow extra time for cleaning in between classes. Studio 3, like LifeStart, plans to check people's temperatures before they can use facilities and install plastic partitions, like the sneeze guards at grocery store checkout counters between cardio equipment. Runaway Fitness has been buying extra dumbbells, kettlebells, benches, and ropes so people won't have to share as much equipment and developing cleaning protocols. First Ascent is setting up a reservation system that will let gyms control capacity and plans to split the day into morning and afternoon sessions with a midday cleaning break. Different climbing routes will be open during each period, both to encourage social distancing and help employees keep up with cleaning. Gyms have also been creating virtual workouts and fitness challenges for customers who can no longer visit in person. Some charge reduced rates for online classes. Others make them available for free to keep members engaged. But online, they're competing with gyms across the country and companies that specialize in virtual fitness like Peloton, which makes indoor bikes and treadmills that let users stream live or pre-recorded classes. On Wednesday, Peloton reported a 66% increase in sales during the quarter that ended March 31st, despite canceling some planned advertising because it was having trouble keeping up with demand. Overall sales of fitness equipment rose about 130% in March compared with the same month last year, according to market research firm the NPD Group. Chicago area fitness clubs owners say that they are confident people will be eager to return and reconnect with friends or a favorite instructor. But some were concerned regulars will be slow to come back, whether because the shift to remote work means that the gym near the office is no longer convenient or because they remain wary. We need to figure out how to tamp the fear down at some point, or consumers aren't going to come back, Lakeshore's Goldman said. So, there it is, from one of the top fitness markets in the country. You see a lot going on there, a lot going on in that market. But a lot of the same fundamental challenges are going to happen everywhere. But in the reading of that article, you really got a good flavor of what some fitness facilities are doing in terms of ramping up their cleaning protocols, overnight cleaning. I mean, that's why this is an opportunity certainly for those facilities that are open 24/7. Was that going to continue? Or is that the overnights are going to be an overnight shift that's going to be closed down? The gym's going to close down for cleaning because we can see, I mean, I can tell you this overnight cleaning concept is really taking a hold in terms of how a number of facilities across the country are planning to move forward in terms of making sure that members see and know that they're cleaning, they're really taking it up a few levels to really make consumers feel at ease in terms of what they are doing and what's going on. And so just really think long and hard. And I wanted to read this. I mean, there's just so much here. You see the growth of Peloton, and you just see, I mean, I can tell you just visually, as I mentioned last week, when I was telling you about my fitness anniversary and how I see that black Peloton delivery van constantly here in Novi. You know, when I'm on the major streets here in our suburb, it is just like, why have I never seen this before? Or very randomly, rarely saw it. But now I'm seeing that black van all the time. And so it's just really interesting to know that and to see the figures, to see the growth in terms of their revenue and demand, to see it on paper, but then to see it visually. It's awesome. And just think about that, what this article said. They had to cancel advertising because their demand is so high. And that's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to be. Certainly something they didn't anticipate. And so as I'm always talking about in that SWOT analysis, all right, so even something as challenging and tough and tragic as a pandemic, there are opportunities for certain industries, for certain subsets of industries. And Peloton and you know, there's Bowflex, you know, folks like that are really able to take advantage, particularly in their home fitness workout arena, are seeing a lot of growth in that particular sector. So I wanted to share that. So think long and hard about what you're doing. Think long and hard about what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to have, and you see a lot of entities that are, you know, from a competitive strategy standpoint, decide, well, our main competitor in the market is open 24/7. Okay. And I've told you Lifetime Fitness, LA Fitness, two highly profitable chains. You know, they're always ranked, you know, always at one and two And the club industry rankings every year, they do extremely well. And they've gotten away from that. This universal 24/7, that's very different. It's very difficult to maintain that, particularly over time. And when you've got profitability pressures, and particularly your corporate change, your corporate entities are going to see a lot more of that, where they're looking to say, okay, if we only have 7 people coming in between midnight and 4 a.m. and we have these facilities open, from a cost benefit standpoint, what is really, is this profitable for us? And if not, we got to change this. And so now what you see, even other entities, non-corporate entities are starting to do the same thing, but they may be open 24/7, but they're spending that overnight. They've got an overnight custodian or custodial staff now that is going to be doing some serious deep cleaning. And you see one of the entities here I highlighted is going to be doing some ultraviolet, disinfecting procedures and things like that. So just think long and hard about what you need to do moving forward to maintain the viability and the profitability of your business. Really look at supply and demand. I mean, really look at cost benefit analysis and think about where things are, where things currently stand. Can you justify being open till 11 p.m. or midnight? You've got a massive drop off of people at 9 o'clock. I mean, this is an opportunity to really reset the button, and reset expectations. Because if you tell members, yeah, we used to close at 11, or pre-COVID, we closed at 11, or we closed at midnight prior to that, and you start to tell people, but now we've got to close at 9, we've got to close at 10, but hey, we have rolled out some serious cleaning procedures, so we're going to need that extra hour, 2 or 3, whatever the case may be, for the entire overnight shift, whatever the case may be. People will understand that. People will understand. You particularly, you're talking about in their best interest, doing your best to clean and disinfect and make things happen to improve their experience and allay member fears. They will understand that. Just don't get caught in the people pleasing trap of 3 people saying, I really want you to be open overnight, don't change your hours, and you just really cannot, from a cost benefit analysis, you haven't been able to justify it, but you've just been so afraid of disappointing people or making people mad. There's a whole lot of facilities that are there, even those that used to be 24/7 that have gone to 24/5, and certainly COVID has really changed the paradigm even on that, just the concept of 24/7 operations, because there's got to be a lot of deep cleaning done, and it's tough to really get a whole lot of that done without club closures. I mean, I've seen examples myself where I've read clubs are going to be closing an hour or 2 during the day to really get a hold on some cleaning, because it's just tough when you've got members mulling around the gym. It's just harder to do that. It's easier to do that when a club is closed and there's no distractions and all of that. And so that's what it is. And I wanted to, from a cleaning standpoint, didn't want to forget, actually put myself a little sticky note to remind myself on this too. So in the recent edition of Athletic Business, so this is the May 2020 edition of Athletic Business, there's an article, and the title of the article is Proper Products Education Create a Healthy Gym Environment. So again, talking about this whole importance of cleanliness and cleaning during the COVID crisis, and how this is really, the concept of cleanliness has really changed some things in a lot of gyms and a lot of facilities. And it's always needed to be there, but it's just really getting the heightened attention that I think it deserves. And so I'm not going to read this article is long. And so I've just pulled out a couple of paragraphs here. And from a cleaning perspective, I think they really shed a lot of some good insight in terms of cleaning. So it says, one key thing that facilities might fail to consider is a given product's dwell time. That is, the amount of time a disinfectant must be present on a surface before it effectively kills pathogens. Many disinfectants have dwell times in the range of 5 to 10 minutes. And if your facility isn't adhering to those dwell times, more than likely, you're not even doing the job you thought you were doing, says Jordan. And you're just kind of wasting time and money thinking you're doing something. When this thing all calms down, members are going to realize there's a difference between this product and that product, and there's a difference between how you use it. It's not like cleaning your mirrors in your bathroom. You have to follow procedures for things to work properly. Wonderful insight. I mean, and that really kind of jarred my thinking when I read that, and I thought, now how many times do we think just spraying something down and quickly wiping it off? Particularly as this article was framing it from a gym perspective. And so this Clorox Pro resource guide, so some of this information actually came from that. So when you think about this concept of dwell time, so 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, how easy, even if you got machines, every other machine restricted, social distancing, all of that 6 feet apart, and reduced number of cardio machines to adhere to that, and governmental regulations and what they're suggesting, CDC, and you're spraying down machines, your staff is spraying down machines, and the liquids or disinfectants, whatever, stay on for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. When there's apparently a body of research that shows that for some, it's 5 to 10 minutes. So wanted to point that out. I'm always, whenever I see something that really is important, I thought about that and I said, wow. I mean, that is, and again, when you think about the overnight deep cleanings, facilities closing to make sure this type of stuff happens. Because when you think about closing down, you're operating at 25% capacity and a lot of cardio machines aren't available. And again, depending on the type of disinfectant that you're using and how effectively it's killing pathogens, this is a big one. I just wanted to highlight, you obviously make your own decisions, but I just like to provide insight and information whenever I see it. And this concept of dwell times was a big one. So think long and hard. Think long and hard about that. Think long and hard about that. Also, too, another great club industry article that I came across that I wanted to point out. I'm not going to read any of this. It's lengthy. But it says Pamela Coolfall, the content director, so on May 19th, 11:59, she published this, and it says, "Are the sins of the fitness industry's dirty past coming back to haunt us?" So there's a lot here, and actually, and interestingly enough, it just talks about how cleanliness was a big problem in the fitness industry pre-COVID, and it highlights some articles that talked about prior to COVID, just sharing how dirty gyms are. So it just talked about all of that, but it actually opened up, and this is something that's very important. So I'm just going to read this, and then that's going to be it because it's a little lengthy. But it talked about an infection outbreak that occurred in my old stomping ground, South Korea. So it says, the text from a friend blared a harsh headline. More than 100 infections linked to fitness classes in South Korea, study finds. The link took me to a story about a study that found that one 4-hour dance workshop on February 15th in South Korea led to the spread of COVID-19 to 112 people. Of the 27 instructors who participated in the workshop and were not showing symptoms at the time of the event, 8 later tested positive. The instructors then spread the virus back at their home gyms for a total of 112 cases. The study was published in the journal Emerging Infectious Diseases. So it goes on again to talk about just some of the challenges of cleanliness and all of that, but that the South Korean example just highlighted, the realities of what fitness facilities, entities, particularly group fitness classes, but even those that don't offer group fitness classes. This is the challenges that this COVID pandemic has really caused. Of course, all industries, all aspects of life, but certainly the fitness industry, and how that we know South Korea has done a wonderful job in terms of really mitigating their outbreaks and just doing a wonderful job keeping their death count low. And so this is an example that it's stuff. I mean, these outbreaks are going to happen. Things are going to happen as things open back up, as classes happen, gyms open, whatever the case may be. But just wanted to highlight that. And so, folks, that's all I have for you today. Is when you just think about the adversity. There's a lot of adversity, happening in all of our lives right now, and certainly in the fitness industry. But this is a time to reevaluate. Before I close this out with Rachelle's coronavirus challenge, this is a time for us to evaluate what we're doing. Has what we've done in the past worked or not? Is this an opportunity to reset, to hit the reset button on any aspect of fitness operations in particular. You know, if you had an issue pre-COVID with turnover of 40, 50, 60, 70%, now is the time to hit the reset button, to change expectations, to manage expectations, to let leaders, individual club leaders and managers know that post-COVID, that kind of turnover is unacceptable. You know, we've got to change the way things are being done. You know, the billing and the cancellation procedures that have dogged the industry for years. And I just wish I didn't have to highlight this. I mean, it doesn't matter what type of entity we're talking about. The billing and the cancellation challenges and people having problems canceling. Now we've got a number of class action lawsuits that are going on as a result of this, the COVID-related club closures. And so that's shedding some light, and certainly it's an opportunity to really make some positive changes. But you know, don't let litigation be the reason for you to make positive changes in your facility operations. You know, strive to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do. So evaluate. You know, how effective, you know, how has my retention been in the last year? How has my member acquisition been in the last year? What's been my churn rate? How is my return on investment, my ROI in terms of my marketing spend? You know, this is a new era in all industries, really, but in the fitness industry. You know, do you have online options for your members, you know, at this time? Because any facility that doesn't, you're at a disadvantage because you're going to be at the mercy of what's just external circumstances and what your competitors are doing that likely are offering some type of online, workout platform. So it's just so important. And you know, I'm always talking about competitive strategy and the importance of competitive analysis and the importance of recognizing and paying attention to what your competitors are doing. And so that way you're not blindsided. And even in a situation like this, you may be thinking, you know, closing your club down for 10 or 15 minutes, you know, every other hour, and that's certainly, you know, to be applauded. Anything extra, anything additional, anything above and beyond what has been done in the past from a cleaning perspective is certainly to be applauded. But then if your competitor is also doing that, but then is also doing a super intense deep cleaning overnight, and you're having to compete with that. And again, that is a point from a competitive strategy standpoint. That is a point of differentiation that could be highlighted and should be highlighted from a marketing perspective. Look at what we're doing. Look at all of these extra cleaning steps. You know, perhaps if this is the case, our competitors aren't doing this. Look at what we're doing. And so those that think just spraying down equipment and just moving on to the next machine and doing that, or relying on members to do it, you know, to relying on members to truly do the heavy lifting. I mean, no pun intended. From a cleaning standpoint, that is just not going to happen. I mean, if any entity or entities are putting the onus on members to do all of that, get ready. just get ready. Get ready for some serious non-compliance. And this, of course, is not just true in the fitness industry, but this is true in all industries. This is a very tough time, very tough situations. Our frontline workers, our frontline retail workers, and I can tell you this, and this is something that I've told a few people here over the last few days. As a training professional myself, as a training and development professional myself, I can tell you a very big blind spot for leaders in terms of, you know, what they're expecting their employees and staff members to do. There's a very big blind spot that we all need to make sure that we're paying very close attention to. And that is, generally speaking, yes, there are always outliers. There are always outliers in any circumstances and situations. But generally speaking, part of human nature, no matter where it is, human nature, human beings, generally speaking, do not like conflicts and confrontation. And so, enforcing policies and procedures, guidelines, is going to requires confrontation and the willingness to perhaps create conflict. Because what we see across the country and various entities is a lot of situations where it's human nature. Another dimension of human nature, generally speaking, is people are going to do what they want to do, and people want to do what they want to do. And so the enforcement situation is proven to be, and I'm not surprised at all, a very big challenge. Very big challenge, because what's happening? I mean, here in Michigan, a few weeks ago I highlighted the example where the security guard, it was a Family Dollar store, a security guard was trying to enforce social distancing, all the guidelines, and was ultimately murdered. Behind that confrontation, or as a result of that confrontation. We see examples all over the country where the frontline workers are being cursed out, being threatened. Some have experienced violence, and so you have that situation. And think about human nature. Generally speaking, does not like conflict and confrontation. And enforcement of policies and procedures, just inherently speaking, requires the ability to confront people, confront situations when guidelines, policies, and procedures, rules, regulations are not being followed. And that's why you see, respectfully speaking to all, corporations and industries, but that's why you see some of them pulling back on some of their requirements that they had a few weeks ago, because they're concerned for employee safety, employee morale. And so as a training and development, it does not surprise me at all. It's a very tough situation, because these situations require, in many cases, confrontation, the willingness to confront customers, confront members who are not doing as they, should be. There'll be signs on the front door of a particular store saying what guidelines or rules that they have in terms of shop there. People are doing it sometimes they're not, and then they're cursing out employees who do have the willingness and the ability and the confidence, really, to confront people. Because it's a blind spot. We need to be aware of that. And employees want to keep their jobs, they want to pay their bills, they want to remain safe, they don't want to have to deal with violence, potential murder, and getting cursed out and humiliated and all of that, spoken down to in front of customers. And so it is just a very challenging situation, and just even from a fitness facility leadership perspective, gotta be mindful of that. You gotta be mindful of that. So putting the onus on members to do the right thing, unchecked, with no confrontation, when situations where people aren't doing the right thing, is a very big challenge. Is a very big challenge, and it's something just keep that blind spot in mind. Just keep that blind spot. It is just so important, because if somebody who's afraid of conflict and confrontation, and you put them in that role like that, in many cases, they're understandably too, they're afraid. They want to keep their jobs, they want to keep their income, they want to be safe and for their families. And then the employer is in a situation where potential litigation and liability issues are bound because rules aren't being followed, and it is just a very tough situation. And so I like to provide insight from both sides of the coin, from an employee or staff member's perspective, as well as an employer, fitness facility, corporation, whatever the case may be, inside or outside of the fitness industry. We need to be aware of that, just mindful of that blind spot. That fear of conflict. And if someone is afraid of conflict, they're not going to say a word. We've heard instances across the country of people of all ages shopping during the senior hours in retail stores. Grocery stores have set, early hours for senior citizens and all of that. And there's been complaints. You read them, you see them, with people of all ages, young, everything, just shopping in there when seniors are only supposed to be in there. And people were complaining and all of this and that. But again, you gotta understand. It's tough to confront people. It's tough because there's many times. Yes, not only is confrontation hard, and people generally don't like confronting and then creating conflict like that, but then the person who's getting confronted and dealing, or all of a sudden now being the source or the cause of the conflict by not adhering to rules and regulations, policies, and procedures, people generally don't take confrontation well. So that's why you see, oh, well, I want to do what I'm going to do, and I don't care what your rule says. I mean, we see this going on day after day after day. And so just we got to be mindful of the inherent challenges on both sides of this equation. So, but all I'm saying is be aware of it. Be aware of it. You know, you've got a staff members, and I used to be one myself, people pleaser, huge people pleaser. I used to be one. Southern Rachelle, the Southern Belle, used to be a huge people pleaser. And so if you got people pleasers who don't like conflict, don't like confrontation, you're going to have, no matter how wonderful and sweet and nice and friendly staff members may be, there's going to be a whole lot of non-compliance going on. You know, people just doing whatever they want to do. And that just recognize that inherent challenge, not only in the fitness industry, but outside the fitness industry. And it's already happening to a decent degree across the country. But we just got to understand both sides. People don't like conflict and confrontation. By giving it or being the one that's put in the position to do that, bam. But then, generally speaking, people just have an issue with being confronted because many of them, you know, have issues with rejection and feeling humiliated and disrespected, and so they lash out and they leave, and then they come back and want to continue these negative interactions. So just protect your people. Just do the right thing. But just recognize they're in a very difficult position right now, particularly if they haven't been before, where a lot of conflict, you know, resolution, conflict management, and confrontation hasn't been required, and then all of a sudden, people-pleasing Peter or people-pleasing Patty is now all of a sudden in a position where they've got to start confronting people and members in a fitness facility for not following the rules. Just recognize. And that's something particularly moving forward, hiring, from a hiring standpoint. That is something in terms of, you know, requiring potential new employees to do DISC profiles. I mean, there's different personality profiles and assessments where you can really pull out. You can literally see based on their answer, based on the results, you know, how compliant is this person? I mean, does their personality, do their responses generally gravitate towards that compliance aspect that is going to be so important to my facility or facilities moving forward, you know, post-COVID, and just moving forward for years to come. You know, because if you've got a bunch of non-conformists working for you, and now all of a sudden they've got to be put in a position that they're not comfortable with because they believe that people should just do whatever they want to do. That's going to be a very tough adjustment for them. So just have these conversations, have these, you know, heart-to-hearts with employees. Find out who really just is terrified of conflict and confrontation, and it just, as much as humanly possible, you know, have perhaps on their shift, have one or two other people that are stronger in that area, you know, and then you can, moving forward, start to hire people that are just naturally strong in that area. Because all I'm saying is, if you just got a bunch of people pleasers, just get ready for a lot of the blowback and problems and negative visibility and publicity on social media that is bound to come. Because, you know, people will pull out their phones and say, this facility is doing no social distancing, no one in here has on a mask, and then all of a sudden it's going to end up on social media. If it gets enough views, it will end up on the evening news, and there you go. But just recognize the difficulties and all the difficulties and difficulties in the intricacies of this entire situation, the inherent challenges around this conflict, this aspect of conflict and confrontation. So I always like to point things out. You know, I like to make the hidden things visible. Because there's some blind spots that people aren't being mindful of because a training and developer professional, I just see it. I see the inherent challenges of what's going on from an employer and from an employee perspective, and just the difficulty in that. Because if you've got somebody that just is terrified of conflict and terrified of confrontation, you know, it just would take a lot for that person to all of a sudden start putting themselves on the line, putting themselves out there to be just confrontational on a daily basis, hourly basis, minute-by-minute basis, if necessary. So just recognize that. Just recognize a lot of what's going on, folks. And we have made it through this challenge several weeks, this coronavirus challenge, several weeks now. And as I wrap up this episode with Rachelle's coronavirus challenge, folks, you saw last week that episode I did from the cardio section of Rachelle's Home Fitness Center. And folks, it's just just does not cease to amaze me. How at a crossroads, when you talk about decisions, we talk about decisions. And this is truly, when I talked about when I first kicked off Rachelle's coronavirus challenge, just really started talking about how the true value of this time of reflection, of pause, of shutdown, just to really evaluate things and really think things through. And many folks now are at a crossroads, and we're going to talk more in this series before I conclude about leadership temperament as well as talent, And so we've got some folks that are basically, on the fence. Do I continue on with these fitness facilities or fitness businesses, or do I go in another direction? Was my heart ever truly in this, or did I see this purely as an investment opportunity? So there's a lot of soul searching. Again, apart from obviously the financial ramifications of the shutdown and clubs not having operations and revenues coming in and things like that. So apart from that, just a lot of soul searching, because that's the beautiful thing about adversity. Adversity will stop us in our tracks and really purify our motives. So there's going to be a segment of the population within the fitness industry, fitness professionals, but outside, definitely outside, just across all industries. People are asking themselves, like, is this really what I want to be doing? Is this really working for me? Am I really serious about my own fitness? Did I just see this as an investment opportunity, or did I see this as an opportunity, someone could say, to be a trainer, because this particular fitness facility or chain or private entity doesn't require a degree, a college degree, and I can get a certification and I'll be good to go. And so that's why I did this 10 years ago, and I'm not happy doing this, and my clients aren't seeing results. And somebody could say, well, I'm not even into my own fitness, and that's actually not as uncommon as you would think it would be across fitness facilities, fitness leaders who are not serious about their own fitness. And so just a lot of soul searching going on to just evaluate, like, what is going on? What type of crossroads? You're at a crossroads, a fork in the road. What am I going to do? And some of these next steps in terms of decisions, these next few decisions, yes, you made a lot of decisions along this coronavirus pandemic. You made closures and things like that. You made some decisions along the way, but some of these are truly fork in the road decisions. I've been operating 24/7 now that I've really evaluated the numbers. I really can't justify that moving forward, so I'm going to go in a new direction and close earlier. Somebody said, okay, well, I had 70% turnover last year. That is unacceptable moving forward. So I'm going to hit the reset button, and I'm going to go in a new direction in terms of if setting and managing expectations for my management teams that constantly churning and turning over employees is unacceptable. That is expensive. Operationally, it's a weakness, and so we can't have this post-COVID. So there's a whole lot of different scenarios that I could certainly name now in which people are doing soul searching. And these important fork in the road decisions are important and impactful, and for your future moving forward. When I think about my own life, and I think about, and it's funny because I laugh now, but Rachelle was a planner. Rachelle always had a plan. This is how it's going to be. This is how my life is going to pan out. And it's just so funny when I look back at that now. And it's like, no, life requires flexibility. Life requires adaptability. There's going to be twists. There's going to be turns along the way. And so we just got to keep on keeping on, stay behind the wheel, keep a smile on our face, and proceed to our next destination. And so, I always had a plan, and even when I think about, my current fitness setup here at Rachelle's Home Fitness Center, like, Rachelle had a plan. Rachelle had some HIIT items, HIIT training items that were in my gym bag, as I used to do hybrid workouts at Powerhouse Gym in Novi. So 21 years, now it's a total of 26 years, but at year 21, I was getting tired of only doing machines. And so that's when I started integrating HIIT training into my workout. So there was a hybrid workout. And so I had a plan, and I said, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna put this bag away. When I joined plan, I'm gonna put this HIIT bag away. And the next chapter of my fitness journey, I'll bring it back out and start doing hybrid workouts again, depending on how that all pans out when I add a second gym membership, plan it in another entity, where I could do HIIT training and be reunited with the fitness love of my life, Precore EFX, Octane LX machine, as well as Precore AMT, some of my cardio machine favorites. So I said, okay, now's going to be the plan. And then the Rona, of course, you all know, colloquially speaking, in terms of the vernacular, people are calling the coronavirus the Rona. So then the Rona hit. And so, that planning, my little plan went out the window. Rachelle is doing pure HIIT training, pure body work training, resistance training. And so that wasn't the plan until the next chapter. But see, the Rona brought my next chapter right to me. My plan was shaken. But see, that's why we got to be open. That's why we got to be adaptable. Because imagine if I would have told myself, well, no, I can only do this in my next chapter. Absolutely not. And so that's just the flexibility. Yes, have plans, all of that, but just recognize they are bound to change. They are bound to change. And I know in terms of and another big one, I want to close with this, just some of the fork in the road decisions in terms of what we do, how they impact our life moving forward. And folks, I got to tell you, there's a couple of higher education institutions that I've really been tuning in to some webinars. They've done a wonderful job. Some COVID-oriented webinars, actually a total of 3, but one of them is actually Northwestern. The Northwestern University Transportation Center has been doing some wonderful webinars every week on supply chain management, every Thursday from 4 to 6 Eastern. Supply chain management and how COVID is impacting that. So it's been so insightful when you think about the grocery stores and just their supply and demand challenges early on. So Northwestern, I'm not really counting that one. But a couple of other institutions, University of Michigan is also doing their data science division and research. They've done some wonderful COVID-related webinars in terms of the research, and it's been very, very insightful looking at those webinars. But the third one, which is very unexpected, is the University of Illinois. The University of Illinois, folks. I'm going to close out here with a little example of the planning in my life that occurred, and just how I had to be open, I had to be flexible. So, I graduated from undergraduate in Louisiana, then moved to Miami, got my first graduate degree, yay. But now I faced a fork in the road decision at that point. Now that's what I'm saying, that the decisions, some of the next steps that you make can truly shape your future inside of the fitness industry, or even if you decide the fitness industry isn't for you. Don't let fear of condemnation, fear of judgment, what are people going to say, am I going to look like a failure, who cares? The most important thing is that we live our values, that we're true to our values, true to our hearts, waking up every day with zest and enthusiasm and passion for what we're doing. If you're waking up every day full of dread, that's a revelation. You need to pay attention to that and take necessary steps to change. So that was a fork in the road decision. Right before I graduated, was applying to different graduate programs, other second graduate programs, and so came down to three. Number one, Emerson College was very close. Emerson College in Boston. So now you folks must know, I love Boston. I love the city of Boston. I just a wonderful city. Wonderful city. I was strongly encouraging. Strongly considering Emerson College. And it's funny because now I tune into WCVB on my Fire Stick, so I can still watch the Boston news. But love Boston, just love that environment. And so part of the reason why I love Ann Arbor so much, you've heard me talk here on Fitness Friday and Non-Fitness Fridays about how smitten I am with Ann Arbor, because Ann Arbor is like the Boston of the Midwest. Certainly the Boston of Michigan, just wonderful. A lot of parallels with Boston. So I absolutely love Ann Arbor. So that explains kind of that connection. So Emerson College. Number 2, University of Illinois. And so they're very different in terms of the career paths. So at Emerson College, I just love Boston. And so, I didn't have like the next 5 steps of my career planned out as far as, moving to Boston. But if I had gone to the University of Illinois, I was looking at ultimately a PhD. I would have ultimately gotten that second, master's degree and then moved on to a PhD. That was definitely the academic route I was looking at with the University of Illinois. And then lastly was Northwestern University. And so, I had those, a fork in the road decision. So, the Northwestern was obviously about career aspects, about, all of that, looking, name recognition, yada, yada, yada. That used to be very important to me back then, but, I've grown a lot, I've learned a lot, over the years. And now, just that whole, oh, I've got to have this name on my resume is not, what in my thinking anymore. It certainly used to be, but now my thinking on that has changed a whole lot. And so I love the experience, love the institution, highly recommend it. But as I've told high school students here, particularly here in Metro Detroit, explore all of your options. Particularly if you want to look at going to graduate school, because those graduate degrees are what people are going to, really be paying up, particularly your last graduate degree. There's going to be a whole lot of emphasis placed on that. And so just pay attention, do what's right for you. I told a number of students, in past years, like if you're going to go to Northwestern, that's great. But, Michigan is giving you a full ride. That is a wonderful school. University of Michigan, wonderful school. Michigan State, wonderful school. They're giving you full rides as opposed to your family having to borrow like $30,000 a year and then pay the rest from their expected family contribution. Just really think long and hard about that. So I've really gravitated, but those are my three decisions. And so we know which one I chose. But I just think about, I could have, gone the PhD route. I would have been in a university with ultimately with the goal of getting tenure, being tied down to one college or university. And we all know how big my freedom is to me. So I see what a challenge that would have been. Looking back now in hindsight, that would have been a challenge. I would have wanted to be a just continuous visiting professor at different universities. Boston and Emerson College, that would have been one route, but Northwestern, because truly what it came down to is I asked myself, you really turn down an opportunity. Rachelle, are you going to turn down this opportunity to go to Northwestern? And you see which route I took. And then just the level of education and the connections that just untouchable. The alumni experience, incredibly strong. So I'm at peace. I really feel in terms of the path that my life has taken, what I wanted to do, my career goals. But see, I had a plan. Even at Northwestern, I was going to spend a certain number of years in corporate America, and I was going to start my own consulting business and become a speaker as well. And see, we just got to be open to life. We've got to be adaptable. But just recognize, if I would have taken those other two decisions, those other two routes, my life would have likely turned out very differently. But so we want to be at peace. We want to be at peace with our decisions. We want to be at peace with who we are in life. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership, temperament, as I mentioned. And we're going to talk a little bit about confidence and just recognizing, if you were just mismatched in terms of you don't want to be in the fitness industry and you just kind of struggled since you've been a leader in the fitness industry and it's truly not where your heart is, those are opportunities. This is an opportunity for you to say, you know what? Time for me to make a change. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I tell the soon-to-be college students here in Detroit, think about what you want to do. You may be at this random, super expensive school, but if your family can't afford it, this is truly, we see a lot of ramifications with this now with COVID. Where students, if our class is going to be held in the fall, they're going to be online or they're going to be offline. The really expensive universities, can you really justify charging all that money, all that tuition and fees for online? So you see a number of students starting to go into the community college route while this whole thing kind of shakes out. And then you see some of the private universities, selective private universities that are really expensive. Students choosing to go to less expensive state schools in the interim, and then perhaps transferring back to their original choice. So there's just no industry is certainly not been impacted by what is going on with this COVID epidemic. But you gotta be at peace. I was at the fork in the road, and I had three good choices, and now I'm doing these webinars with the University of Illinois. So it makes me smile when I see those professors and they have on their pink And sometimes, the men will have on their not the pink, their orange ties, the orange, and then the blue suits and things like that. It's just like, oh my gosh, that navy and orange, I forgot about those colors. So life could have been, had in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, the University of Illinois, but I made the right decision. I'm at peace with that decision. I had a wonderful student experience, having a wonderful alumni experience, but you really got to think about what's important to you. I mean, Northwestern opened up my world like you wouldn't imagine. It showed me the possibilities in terms of how I could professionally sculpt my life. I mean, not just kind of follow the status quo and just kind of be put into a mold of what everyone does. And so I have no regrets. And so I just want to challenge you today as we think about this coronavirus pandemic. We don't want to waste our lives full of regret, full of this, why did I do this? Why am I in this industry? I hate this job. I've been in this bad situation for so long. No, we deserve better than that. And so that's my challenge to myself, and that's my challenge to you, is to really evaluate, think long and hard. I was sitting on my couch on Friday, March 20th, not knowing what in the world I was going to do, as I talked about last week. And so I was at a fork in the road. Am I going to just not do anything, which really wasn't an option? I'm not going to do anything, or am I going to take advantage of this opportunity that I would not have chosen for myself to work out at home? I had a decision to make, and I'm at peace with that decision. I'm actually quite smitten with that decision because Rachelle's Home Fitness Center has really, really turned out to be a treat. I'm so surprised. I'm just so surprised. I can't get over it. But that's why we have to be open in life. We have to be open. Open, adaptable, and flexible, because things rarely happen according to our own planned timelines. And if they are happening to our own timelines, but then we have things like the Rona-virus. The Rona comes along and shakes those plans up and takes us on paths and enables challenges to face us that we would never have chosen on our own, folks. So we got this. To borrow from the vernacular, we got this. But we just got to be open. We got to be open. Because now you see me smiling. So I went from Friday, March 20th, to not knowing what I was going to do, sitting on the couch just full of just despair about what in the world, the gyms are closed, now I can't go power walk at the mall, to here I am today, just smiling, at peace with my current path, and just knowing this has made me a better person, certainly a better fitness leader. And so be open, folks. And so that's all I have for you today. Like I said, we're going to close out these leadership lessons with temperament and talent, and that will be it. But I can't wait until next week. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your leadership and fitness. Make it a great day.